Please welcome to the stage, Laura Asiala.
It's August 2009, and I'm sitting in a conference room of a global manufacturing company about 2.5 hours south of here, and I'm talking to my vice president and the CEO for whom we both work. And we're trying to figure out how we can better serve people in underserved communities, but not through charity. What we're trying to figure out is how we can make the benefits of our technology affordable and accessible to the people at the base of the economic pyramid, those 4 billion people in the world who live on less than $2.50 per day. But there's a problem. From that conference room, we cannot possibly begin to see the challenges and realities of people in sub-Saharan Africa, the streets of Southeast Asia, or rural Latin America. I wonder if we could gain insight into those markets through service first. I said, thinking out loud, what if we put employees into those markets, not to sell anything right away per se, but to gain some insight through service by meeting the people where they are and offering the community some level of service? Our CEO whirled in her chair, pointed a sharply polished index finger at me and said, "I want that." Which should be a very good piece of advice to all of you, never to bounce an idea off of your boss's boss without any idea on how you're going to deliver on it. Fortunately, we found a way. And working through an organization now known as Pixera Global, we launched one of the first global corporate pro bono programs. We placed employees into underserved markets around the world to work with nonprofits and social enterprises. In this first cohort, we sent 10 people to South India for a month at corporate expense to work with social enterprises and nonprofit organizations in order to improve manufacturing capacity, expand sales and marketing channels, and develop standards for renewable energy and low-income housing. In that first cohort, one of the teams worked with SustainTech, which was a manufacturer of clean cook stoves that were developed to be safe and efficient. And this work was really, really important because what most people don't understand is that one of the leading causes of premature death and disease in emerging and developing countries is actually caused by the smoke and emissions that come from traditional cooking fires or traditional cook stoves. In fact, in these communities, professional cooks rarely live past the age of 40 because they're so subjected to this level of air pollution. So the work that SustainTech was doing was very important. Not only were the stoves designed to burn cleanly and efficiently, which would make them more economical, but because they didn't give off the same level of smoke and emissions, they would be much healthier for the cooks. Unfortunately, they were suffering from an issue in their manufacturing that meant that the stoves had issues with durability. And this specific issue was really preventing sales and widespread adoption for the stoves. So in that first team that we put together people on the team that had experience in manufacturing, quality control, and straight from the factory room shop floor. They didn't know the solution when they left. They barely understood the problem. They started by listening, and they listened deeply to the manufacturer and to the organization, as well as to the cooks and the prospective customers that could use the stoves. Working with and learning from people on the ground, they ultimately identified that there was a welding issue in the manufacturing process. Unfortunately, the small team that we had put together didn't have the expertise to solve that welding issue. But what they did have was vast expertise behind them in the company that had sent them. So they linked into their professional network, sending notes and messages back to their family, to their friends and their colleagues at home, looking for ideas and solutions. And as the world turned and it became night in India, people on the other side of the world woke up to problems at Sustain Tech. And over lunches and breaks, they brainstormed solutions and sent them back to the people on the ground in India. Continuing to learn and adjust, they ultimately ended up with a combination of solutions that solved that problem. And the team left Sustain Tech not only with a solution to that particular quality problem, but also with regards to an approach on how they might solve future quality problems. What was also really interesting about this is that we never named a lead on that team. And at every point, someone came forward from a specific talent or area of experience or expertise to lead at different points in the project, depending on where the project was and what the project needed. Today, Sustain Tech is a thriving social enterprise. It's grown by 30% per year, and the stoves have been widely adopted and used in over 400 communities across the state of Tamil Nadu. Now, this idea of giving back to a community is actually not a new idea in terms of corporate citizenship. The best companies have been doing that for a really, really long time. But what was new was the idea of using service to gain insight into a market that could then be better shared and better served through the business through a shared value approach. And immersing yourself in service to gain insight in a completely foreign environment really sets a new framework for what it means to be a good global citizen, whether you're doing that at your own home, at the state and national level, or abroad. And it takes real courage. And that's what we've been talking about all day here today. Citizenship, community, courage, contribution. And we've gotten some really great ideas on how we might do that. I think the Sustain Tech team also provides us with some additional clues on some of the habits and practices that make people most effective global citizens. They are to listen, learn, link, leave, and lead. Did you get that? The 5 L's. Listen, learn, link, leave, and lead. Listen first. The Greek philosopher Epictetus observed that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, that we might listen twice as much as we speak. He's still right. So is Stephen Covey when he observed that one of the habits of highly effective people is to seek first to understand and then be understood. This requires that you be present, get local, and go with a curious, open mind. Ask questions, listen deeply, and understand that your way might not be the only way and probably isn't the right way. By all means, action will be required, and that's why you have to listen first. Bring something to the party: enthusiasm, energy, expertise, resources, advocacy. But don't bring your answers until you understand the questions. Secondly, learn and adjust. My friend Richard Crispin states this beautifully when he says, "Don't fall in love with your solution until you've fallen in love with your problem." When you listen, you're going to gain some insight, and then use action to continue to learn. Try some things, keep what works, change the rest. And remember what Clayton Christensen pointed out in his brilliant book, The Innovator's Dilemma. When you start something new, you can rest assured that it will be at least 50% wrong. So don't be surprised or stopped by the surprises. Listen, learn, adjust, repeat. Link together. The word citizen comes from the same word as the word for cities. People working together in the system of a city. And one of the most important things to understand as a global citizen is that you operate within a system, whether that system is clear to you or not. And once you understand that every interaction takes place within a complex ecosystem, you know that solving problems can never be as simple as an if-then. It's always going to be more like multivariable calculus than simple arithmetic, which is all the more important to nurture a diverse network of family, friends, and allies. Mutually meaningful partnership is also absolutely crucial. There is no single individual, no single organization, not even a single sector that can solve our most difficult problems alone. We all need allies. And the hierarchical nature that emerges from relationships that are characterized by donor, beneficiary, or expert and novices can really throw a partnership off kilter. As adults, we all have something to learn, and we all have something to teach. Partnerships work best when everyone recognizes that each party brings something of value, and people are not only allowed and encouraged, but held responsible to deliver from their set of expertise and gifts. Leave it better. Were you surprised that leaving was one of the critical success factors? Not to be confused with leave because it got too difficult or otherwise giving up. But there will always be endings. The trick is to get them right. How will you ensure that a positive net impact will be left behind you? This is the essence of sustainability, to build competence and capability and confidence that will outlast far beyond what you can drive personally. And finally, lead and be led. The worst leaders always have to be in charge. That's not leadership. That's narcissism. The best leaders create an environment in which everyone can lead from their area of strength. Leadership is exhausting. It's so much better to take turns, which is exactly what Arjan pointed out in his beautiful essay, Lessons from Geese. When the lead goose gets tired, it falls back in formation and another goose flies to the lead point position. The lesson here is that it pays to share the difficult tasks of leadership. Because just like with geese, we're interdependent on each other for our skills and our capabilities and our unique arrangements of gifts, talents, and resources. Back in that conference room in Midland, Michigan, we started with the idea that by being good citizens, we could gain insight through service. And today, dozens of multinational companies now have global pro bono programs, placing employees into underserved communities and using their services to build that kind of competence and capability in communities. And next month, I'm very excited that the next generation of that kind of corporate service will be launched when the Dow Chemical Company, PIMCO, and PricewaterhouseCoopers actually join forces together to provide pro bono services into Ghana to address specific public health challenges in association with USAID's Global Health Fellows Program, too. They'll be working on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and specifically those goals around food and nutrition security, clean water and sanitation, and health system strengthening. As they leave, we'll encourage them to listen, learn, link, prepare to leave, all while being good leaders and followers. But as I reflect on this, I'm thinking, those goals, they aren't only appropriate for overseas. We are all too familiar in the state of Michigan that we also have challenges with water in Flint, and food and nutrition security in the inner city food deserts in Detroit, and accessible, affordable health care in the most rural areas of our state. These are opportunities for global citizens and courageous citizens everywhere. There are borders of all kinds to cross, and ample opportunities for us to listen, learn, link, lead, and leave the world a bit better than when we found it. Thank you.